We got both CP and CN guys running the same direction on the same track. You don't see that every day. We're just on the outskirts of Hope, guys. Welcome back to the channel. We got a big one today. Up the Fraser Canyon, guys. We're going to talk about the Thompson River Gold Rush. Little offshoot of the Fraser, guys, similar to the Bridge River. Great little area. So we're just going over the bridge here, Fraser River. Here we go. This is the Fraser rise in all its glory. Hope. We got the Coquihalla and the Fraser River meeting here, guys. Both gold-bearing rivers. Golden Hope, Panning Reserve and Hope. But Hope is great, guys. This is the Trans-Canada Highways. So there's 7 tunnels that you drive through on this route. And you go past a few little towns of note. The first big town, Yale, guys. Yale, British Columbia. At one point, 20,000 people, guys. A huge city on the Fraser. Yale was a big stopping off point for people heading up the Fraser and into the Caribou. So Yale quickly became a metropolis, guys. Nowadays, Yale is tiny. It's a little small place. Usually where the cops like to hang out and ping people for sobriety checks. But Yale, guys, back in the day, Golden Yale, Hills Bar, guys. Right outside Yale. At one point in time, Hills Bar was the richest gold bar in British Columbia. Crazy amounts of gold came out of Hills Bar, guys. Edward Hill, the American, he was the one that kind of found it. And the Fraser River Rush, guys, if you haven't seen my older videos on the Fraser River, make sure you check those out. Talked all about the Fraser Canyon War and the Americans invading and Kamchin, so make sure you check that out. Today we're going to focus more on the actual gold towns and the gold mining of the Fraser. So we've got Yale, we've got Boston Bar, we've got Lytton, and then once we get to Lytton, it's going to be really cool because we're going to be at the confluence of the Thompson and Fraser Rivers, and then we're going to branch up the Thompson, guys. We're going to go up the Thompson River, follow the because the Trans-Canada Highway doesn't actually follow the Fraser all the way. What it does is it follows the Fraser Canyon up until a certain point, and then once you get to Lytton, it branches off and actually follows the Thompson. And we're going to be heading through true desert country, guys. And gold all along the Thompson, guys, in various different areas. So we're going to get into all that. We're traveling from Hope just to Yale, guys. There's 30, 40 gold bars all along the Fraser, guys. Okay, guys, so here we are, Yale. This is Yale. So this is the Fraser Canyon, guys. Welcome to the Fraser Canyon. Right here, guys, we are here. And then we're going to go up the Alexandria Bridge. That was a huge part of the Caribou Wagon Road. Hell's Gate, that's another one. Hell's Gate was where the river narrows so narrow that there's like a little tiny, like 20-foot section, guys, maybe not even that, where the whole power of the Fraser goes right through it, basically. We're just gonna walk a bit around Yale, check it out. So this is the town of Yale, guys. Little log hauler there. There's the train. Train crossing goes right through Yale. So you can imagine back in the day, guys, this place would have had 20,000 people. There would have been stern wheelers pulling in here. There would have been miners. There would have been assayers. There would have been loggers. Everything, guys. Everything was going on in Yale because it was basically, after you left Hope, it was the big place on the Fraser Canyon where everybody got their stuff, right? Everybody to go up, either go into the Caribou, Fraser Canyon, Thompson, or vice versa, coming down from those regions, be your last stop before you hit Hope and then the coast. In 1848, the Brigade Trail was completed, facilitating pack horse trains from Fort Kamloops to Fort Yale via the Douglas Portage. The beginning of the gold rush in 1858 witnessed the frequent arrival of steam-powered stern wheelers from New Westminster to the head of river navigation at Fort Yale. On July 21st, 1858, the first stern wheeler, Umatilla, arrived at Fort Yale to the excitement of a cheering crowd. Royal engineers and contractors completed the Caribou Wagon Road in 1863. This allowed access to the North Caribou region between Fort Yale and Barkerville by horse-drawn wagons and stagecoach. Approximately 6,500 Chinese workers and other men were sent to work in the early 1800s to complete the new CPR rail line through the Fraser Canyon. A new Canadian National Railway was added on the south side of the Fraser River in 1912. Rail service in the canyon was now fully established. When you were in the coast and you wanted to go to the gold fields, you'd have to start here, right? That would be your main track to start. So the biggest gold bar of note around Yale would be Hills Bar, guys. Hills Bar, insane amounts of gold, guys. well over an ounce a day, diggings, like $10,000 a day back in the day kind of a thing. It was absolutely insane, guys, working at Hills Bar. But the problem was, it was an American who discovered it. So then what happened was 30,000 Americans proceeded to stampede from California and all over the States up to this region, which then caused a whole another set of problems because, as usual, the Americans, they came here and they're like, oh, this is pretty nice, you know, actually I think we're going to take it and you guys can just deal with it, right? And that was kind of a problem, right? Because it was Canadian, it was British territory. So the British were like, yeah, no, that ain't happening. So then it was a whole sparring match between basically the Americans, the natives, and the Royal Engineers of Britain. And they were all kind of going at it. The Hills Bar, that was the big gold bar around here. And huge, coarse, chunky, nuggety gold, guys. And then going up from here all the way to Lytton, 30, 40, 50 bars, guys, they're everywhere. It's hard to tell at certain times of year where they are because as the river level rises and falls, the bars either become available or they don't become available. So it's a whole juggling match. This is placer miners at work on Hills Bar. They got rockers going. That's his little mini sluice there. He's dumping the material in. And then this is be rock back and forth. Sometimes they had a copper amalgam plate on underneath the rocker. That was a Chinese thing. And then they would use that. Look, there's this guy digging over there. Miners panning gold near Yale. And then this is 1882 Front Street, Yale, during construction of the railway. Image courtesy of Royal BC Museum. You can see, look at the sternwheeler landing, guys. It would just pull up. So it would have been like right around here is where it all would have pulled up. The Hudson's Bay Company at Fort Yale knew about the rich deposits of gold in the Fraser River as early as 1856, but they kept it a secret. On March 23rd, 1858, Edward Hill stopped for lunch near Fort Yale. Dipping his gold pan in the river, he discovered high concentrations of gold. As word leaked out, 30,000 gold-hungry miners poured into the Yale area, quickly overwhelming the native population in the heart of their own territory. All these other rushes were quite small by comparison. The Fraser River wasn't, but everything else other than the Fraser. And you'll see when we got up on the Thompson, there's other gold rushes as well. It wasn't just the Fraser River gold rush, like some of the Fraser's tributaries, such as the Bridge River, the Thompson River, the huge amounts of gold, guys, huge. So it's big. So that's James Murray Yale, 1880. Hudson's Bay Company store. This is the Hudson's Bay Company store. The North American West Coast fur trade began in the late 1700s and continued into the gold rush era of the 1850s and beyond. The Hudson's Bay Company was desperate to open fur trade routes between BC's coast and the interior after their southern trade routes were lost to the United States following the Oregon Treaty. Yeah, they had a whole bunch of trade routes, guys. The Okanagan route, as well as the Whatcom Trail and various other routes they were using, the Columbia River. The Whatcom Trail was an American trail. They used a similar trail. They had under their own name. In 1847, Fort Langley chief trader James Murray Yale sent Ovid Allard and a group of men to build a house and store at the foot of the falls. Ovid named the site Fort Yale in honor of James Murray Yale. Fort Yale became part of the annual transportation route for furs collected throughout the interior and sent by pack horses and boats to Fort Langley. The volume of furs traded in the 1840s and 50s was staggering. One horse pack train leaving Fort Kamloops for Yale set out in 1848 with 400 horses and 50 men. The horses carried two 90-pound packs each, which contained bales of furs and some provisions. The line of pack animals stretched for over a mile. The route, deemed so treacherous after numerous pack animals died, was used only 3 times before being abandoned in favor of Fort Hope route. After gold was traded to the HBC by First Nations, the trading post in Yale was rebuilt and for many years did good business. The native population brought furs, salmon, and other trade items to the Yale post in exchange for textiles, tools, and luxury materials, such as tobacco. Still mining going on here in Yale. Claims all along the Fraser. Everything's staked though, like I said, guys. I always say that. I don't think it needs to be said, but most of the stuff that I'm talking about, guys, it's all staked ground. There's very few new discoveries going on these days, but there are some, which we will talk about more in other videos. But basically, we're going to head up the Fraser Canyon now because at this point, the Fraser River becomes impassable by boat. Like guys would do it on rafts coming back down. They'd build rafts. We'll talk all about that story a little bit further into the video. Once you're in Yale, guys, it's a foot pack train journey now, because it's going to get really rugged and steep and precipitous, and that's going to make having a stern wheeler impossible. So this would be called a portage. So we're going to drive the portage up the old Caribou Wagon Road through the Fraser Canyon, which has changed many, many times since that old day, and stop along the way, Boston Bar, look at the tunnels. But Hills Bar, guys, get these trees out of the way. You go a little bit further down, just outside Yale towards Hope. Over that way is Hills Bar. So guys, this is what remains of downtown Yale. Not much. Oh, there's the historic site. Yeah, it's a little bit further over. That's what I thought. That's the historic site, guys. There's a church and a school from back in the day, what's left over. But that's Yale, guys. But imagine 20,000 people back in the day, eh? Big city. It's crazy to think how it's just a small little town now, or not even a little hamlet, basically. We're now going up, following the Trans-Canada Highway, CN Rail, as well as CP Rail, and the Caribou Wagon Road. So there's a bunch of different layers going on here. We got our first tunnel coming up here. The first tunnel, what's this one? This is the Yale Tunnel. Yeah, there's 7 tunnels, guys, on the Fraser Canyon. They're fun. And obviously quite a lot more train tunnels and stuff too, but you can see, right, it's super precipitous now. It was all right, but as soon as you go past Yale, guys, good luck trying to maneuver a stern wheeler up here. You couldn't do it. The river gets too windy, it gets too rough, it gets too narrow. Hell's Gate is basically the narrowest part of the river, and it's really, really intense, guys. Hell's Gate's deep there too. So, but look at the Fraser Canyon, guys. Absolutely beautiful. Historic place, guys, the Fraser Canyon. There's so many things have happened here over the 170 years. 1856 is when they discovered the gold, and even before that, frankly. But it's always, when is the word get out, guys? Because gold can be discovered somewhere well before, you know, the rush happens, so to speak. But what it's really about is how much can guys not talk about it, right? How much can you just keep your mouth shut about it and not go and tell anybody? Would you be surprised? This is very, very difficult. When you find a lot of gold or you're super excited, it's really hard to just be like, you know, and play it cool. And like I said, you go to the claims office, and then they'll get asked a whole bunch of questions there just by virtue of, you know, registering your claim, and then word gets out, and then that's all it takes. And another indicator for that kind of stuff was guys would leave to go on prospecting trips, and then everybody knew back in the day where you were going and like what you were doing or the area you were going, and guys just wouldn't come back. They'd spend years out there. They'd live out there, they'd hunt and trap and mine for gold, and people would be like, well, those guys left and they didn't come back. And they haven't been back since, which obviously, you know, you put 2 and 2 together, right? So it was a whole thing. So here's the second tunnel we've got coming up. We've got, what's this one now? We've got Saddle Rock Tunnel. They all got different hues and lights too, eh? All the light colors are different. Lots of mythical lore in the Fraser Canyon too, guys. Sasquatch, Dogman, other kinds of cryptids, aliens, all kinds of lore if you're into that kind of a thing. There's many, many, many stories from the CP guys, the train men, the old teamsters, you know, stories of horses going missing at night when they were camped out, right? The teamsters, CP guys, the old 1800s steam engine guys, they saw a lot of old things, prospectors and miners. So it all depends if you believe in that kind of stuff or not, but there's definitely a presence of that here, and it's talked about quite a lot, especially around Spuzum, the whole thing known for the Dogman and all that. It's quite a legend, actually. If you look it up online, you'll see there's all this information about like Spuzum and the Dogman and Sasquatch in the Fraser Canyon. Jocko was found by the railroad tracks, one of the CPR. They found Jocko, and then he ran into the bush. So there's a whole bunch of stuff kind of all intermingling here in the Fraser. So, but we're just basically driving up now, taking in everything. Sawmill Creek, Sawmill Bar. Sawmill Bar is another one. That's another good gold bar, Sawmill Bar. So I'm not naming 50, 60 bars, guys. You guys get it, right? It's just a gravel bar in the river. So we're approaching the old Alexandria Bridge crossing here. A little cenotaph there, Fraser River. Over the bridge. The Alexandria Bridge is right there, guys. Joseph Trutch, his baby, guys. I can't really see because the trail. Oh, there you go. Yep. Joseph Trutch, guys. His little baby because of the canyon and how precipitous it is. It needs a big bridge. So Joseph Trutch built that. He's a big engineer. We're just basically heading to Boston Bar, and then Boston Bar will be our next kind of big stop. But yeah, it's very, very precipitous, guys. Very narrow, very steep in the river, too. Absolutely beautiful scenery, though. We're right on the top here, right on the bluffs. Cruising along the bluffs. Okay, we got another tunnel coming up. Which one's this? Alexandria. Yeah, that makes sense. Alexandria Bridge. Yeah, that would make sense. Alexandria is also a camp, a fur trading post up towards Prince George, guys. Alexandria's got a big post. There's a good restaurant there, actually. They do really good sandwiches there. But we'll cover all that, Kersley, and well, we got a lot to do still. 2 minutes ahead. This is the Hell's Gate tunnel. That one's pretty obvious. And then there's another tunnel. There's two of them right in a row here. So we've got Hell's Gate. Boom. And then we've got, it's either Ferriby or China Bar. That's the last two. Oh, Ferriby, there we go. Yep, we got China Bar is our last tunnel, guys. After Hell's Gate, Ferriby, China Bar. You can see all the barriers they have for the rock slide. Look at that, eh? Gabion baskets. Gabion basket wall. Good old Gabion baskets, eh? Oh, it's so nice here. I love it. I love the Fraser Canyon. So this is Hell's Gate, guys. Tourist attraction. We're not stopping here today. Hell's Gate, that's a whole thing, guys. It takes a few hours. You take the tram over the Fraser. You go down on the other side of the Fraser. There's a whole thing there. Little shop and cafe and stuff. It's busy though. Oh, expensive too, but worth it. Worth it, but definitely expensive. So, but we will do Hell's Gate at some point. It's not open very much, so you got to kind of get it when you can, right? In the middle, usually summertime. Closes, I think, Labor Day. So we're just continuing on to Boston Bar. We got I can see it already down. I've sighted the canyon already. We gotta come in here. The next tunnel. Boston Bar 10. We're getting up there. Definitely getting up there. Well, this is the last one. This is the long one, too. This is the longest tunnel. China Bar. And this concludes the Fraser Canyon tunnels, guys. This is the last tunnel we got to drive through. Mike Roberts was saying back in the day when he used to do this with his family back in the 50s, there was like cantilevered sections of the highway still. So you guys might remember that. I don't know if you do, but there was like, you old boomers might, there was like, the highway used to be cantilevered. There's actual cantilevered sections of highway you'd be driving over. So that's intense. Especially over a precipitous cliff with a huge drop. Alrighty guys, so here we are, Boston Bar. Okay, so North Bend aerial ferry. So there was a huge thing back in the day with accessing back and forth from the Fraser. It was either ferry crossings, there still wasn't Lytton, the cable ferry crossing in Lytton, or what it was aerial tram cars. So this tram car is really cool because you used to be able to drive your car on it from Boston Bar to North Bend. We're gonna go across the bridge and show you guys what this replaced, but you can see vehicles waiting, place transmission in park, remove ignition key, apply emergency brake, do not leave children in vehicle unattended. And so this thing would be going on a tram cable across the river, basically from the east side to the west side. They ended up building a bridge, which kind of did away with all of that, and there was no need to really have this anymore. But you can imagine, guys, back in the day, driving your car on this would be freaky. A couple 100 feet above the canyon, just suspended by a little cable. You can see it's old though. But this is the aerial cable ferry, and it basically just transported people and cars back and forth. But there's some really cool pictures here of Boston Bar, and I was saying before, it's hard to find history on Boston Bar, but Boston Bar has done a good job here in this little heritage park they have. Canadian Pacific. So it's a directional renting agreement, guys, so they're sharing the track. CP's technically supposed to be on the other side, but this is a westbound traffic, so it's going it's on the east side of the canyon. 8834 Canadian Pacific. Hauling coal, looks like, or something, some kind of ore or rock, gravel. It could be anything in the train. There's a CN bunkhouse too, guys. That's basically the bunkhouse right there, but it's guys' living accommodations, so you keep it nice and private for them, the guys that work on the train. So there's all this history here, guys. North Bend, 1800s. Prospectors used several pack trails: Anderson's Fur Brigade Trail, Harrison to Lillooet Trail, the Mule Trail, 1860, from Yale to Chapman's Bar, or Mile 14. This mule trail then followed a low-level mule trail to Boston Bar. The Caribou Wagon Road, built by the Royal Engineers, made the access to the gold rush areas less difficult. It opened up the country to new settlement and development. The area now called North Bend was known as Yankee Flats, or Yankeetown. It is described as a profitable area when 20 men with 5 sluices could make $6 to $8 per day. When the findings tapered, the prospectors moved on. Some stayed to farm. These prospectors were British, Chinese, and a few Mexicans. With the building of the railway in the 1880s, Cornelius Van Horn, the CPR Syndicate General Manager, chose North Bend as the divisional point for the railway. Andrew Onderdonk, the Government of Canada contractor, was given the task of building the rail line from Yale through the canyon to Kamloops. The town was named North Bend for its position on the northern bend of the river and the railway. The announcement of the divisional point for the railway resulted in a great boom. The town site acquired new buildings. These included a store, post office, roundhouse, various yard buildings, offices, water tower, and the new CPR hotel called the Fraser Canyon House. Opened January 1887. This building was built to standard CPR plans. The result was an architecturally unified community of buildings exhibiting a combination of shiplap and shingle exteriors. The building was destroyed by fire around 1927. The CPR provided the town with a steam whistle, which blew 3 times: at 6:45 a.m., 2 whistles, at 6:55 a.m., and 1 whistle at 7 a.m. These whistles kept the shop crews reporting to work on time and were also used by the rest of the town to keep everyone synchronized. The whistle was also used as a fire call. It blew steady until the volunteers responded with the hose reels, which were stationed on either side of the tracks. The stationary boiler also supplied steam to 2 generators, which supplied electric power to the homes in North Bend. The power was turned off at 8 a.m. each day, except Mondays, so the ladies could do laundry. It was also used to run the streetlights. The electric power was metered, and the charge was 10 cents a kilowatt hour. More pictures and stuff over here, eh? Wow. In 1858, Boston Bar was only a name among others like Dutchman's Bar, China Bar, Island Bar, and Fargo Bar. The sandbar, prospected by the Boston men, or Americans, in the late 1850s, was situated at the mouth of the Anderson River. Access to the bar, to appears, have been an old Hudson's Bay Trail from 1848. This climbed up from the canyon where Alexandria Lodge now stands. It took a circuitous mountain route east of the canyon and then followed the Anderson River Gorge back to the Fraser. Like many gold rush towns, Boston Bar had its moments of affluence and decline. The miners were making from $1 to $10 a day at the site. In 1860 came the Mule Trail, which was a slight improvement. By 1864, the Caribou Road through the Fraser Canyon was well established. Its greater width, 18 feet, allowed for the passage of wagons and stagecoaches. Boston Bar became a welcome stop en route to the goldfields. The town site was located on a low flat beside the river, where a rope ferry connected it to the Island Bar on the opposite shore. In 1858, the chief Spintlum of Lytton led an attack on the Boston Bar miners. The war was initiated by the miners' abuse of the native woman, prevention of native mining, destruction of their crops, removal of their root crops, and the theft of their cattle and horses. These deeds committed by the Boston men caused the natives to suffer fearfully from want of food, and a great many died from starvation. 6 men were killed on Jackass Mountain and 2 below on Slaughter Bar. At least 80 whites and an unknown number of natives died as a result of the hostilities. The survivors of this attack floated their not-so-lucky comrades down the Fraser in hope that someone would see them and come to rescue. Help came in the form of 2 captains, Forrester and Rouse, and their troops, along with 150 fellow Boston Bar miners. A bloody feud was fought, which resulted in the death of 15 Frenchmen and both captains. Finally, tiring of all the fighting, Chief Splintlam made peace by signing a treaty with Queen Victoria. This is Boston Bar itself, the old map, guys. It's nice that they have this stuff. I hear the train stopped. We got both CP and CN guys running the same direction on the same track. You don't see that every day. The last one was CP. See if this one's CN now. This is a CN one. Nice. So CP and CN. Yeah, so we got CP first time. Now we got CN. They're heading west, guys. So they're using the eastbound side of the canyon. So, but it's the directional running agreement, which I'll talk more about. So we're gonna go through Boston Bar, and then we're gonna go into North Bend, and then we're gonna continue on up to Lytton and continue our trip. Anyways, guys, if you like this kind of content, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell icon to get notified, and Sasquatch Prospector out.